Hello. So today we will be painting a very calm landscape, and it is one of the first ones that I painted personally, which sparked the creativity in me and got me started with the art challenges or painting seascapes, and it has a very special place in my life. So we're going to paint that one today. I am going to try and see if I can choose the painting to be appearing on the screen. So not sure if this works. This is the reference. So I'm going to cancel this out. It took me a while to figure things here, but yeah, that's what we will be painting today. And we will also try and see if we have time. I will take you through how I mix my blues. I don't have too many in my palette, and I try to mix my greens and blues most of the time. So I will take you through that as well when we have time. I'm trying to keep it like a 30-minute long live. So we'll see when we get there. I won't be rushing it though, but I prefer not to take too much of your time and give you as much value as I can in those 30 minutes. Um, I know everybody wants to paint in a way that is sustainable, and 30 minutes sounds like a good commitment and not too much. So yeah, that's how I began to. I used to paint 20 minutes, not even 30 minutes, and leave the painting as is when I was starting out because it wasn't possible for me um to kind of paint much. So yeah, Dija, I'm not going to draw. I'm going to start painting directly. We are only going to do a guideline here. So the paint that I'm going to start with is going to be Cerulean Blue. I did do the first time when I painted with Indigo. This time I'm going with Cerulean Blue. I will probably switch the color later, and there will be a lot of layers. So this is for the background, and generally watercolor dries lighter than what it appears. So I'm going to keep that in mind while I'm going over the painting because I tend to paint quite light when I'm painting my first layer. Since the water is also the same color as the sky, I'm going further with the background. The paper that I'm using is from it's a sketchbook from Lupine Arts. It was a special edition sketchbook that I got from them last year, and I quite love it because of the texture it has. It's a cold press paper. So yeah, this is our first layer. I am going to mute myself and dry it so that we can paint the mountains really quick. So let me mute myself. So my paper is dry. Now you can see that the paint actually went value down, and it generally does dry lighter than it appears when it's wet, especially for blues. So don't ever feel like you've painted dark enough. So now let's go into the next layer. I'm going to take the same cerulean blue here. Since my mountains on the back are pretty foggy and blurred, so I am going to go and paint. Make sure that your paper is dry and use the back of your hand so that you don't end up transferring the oils from your hand to the paper. So I'm just eyeballing it. There is no I'm not trying to just what you call is draw exactly as in the painting. I just want the feeling of calmness here. I am painting for the feeling and not to just copy the painting. So this is my first layer, which is the background layer of the mountain. I'm going to dry this real quick again. I know there'll be a lot of layering and a lot of drying in this. So please bear with me. Now the next layer we'll paint similarly, but we will go a bit darker. So I'm going to mix a little bit of indigo in cerulean blue, or you could just increase the intensity of cerulean blue. But I want to include indigo because I want to create a way the mountains appear in terms of tonal values. So the second mountain goes between these two. So I'm going to just paint like this and then dilute it. You want to make sure that you keep the values increasing basically because that gives you the sense of distance. And then I'm going to dry this again. There will be a lot of drying and a lot of me muting myself. So while I do that, I can while I dry the paper, um, I'll mute myself every time so I don't have to repeat myself when I do that. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you so much. In case you have any question about what I'm doing and if I change any pigment and you would want to know a little bit more, please drop it in the comments so that I can read through it when I come at it and answer your questions. So now it's the next mountain. It goes right before. You just don't have to rush your painting. Be nice, be gentle, be mindful, be present in what you're painting because nothing needs to be perfect, nothing needs to be rushed. This is you practicing your art and you just want to do things that feel right to you. So you don't need to try and do anything that doesn't sit well with you. So I'm going to make this a little darker because this is the darkest value and this is right in the front. I'm using a lot of indigo here. Try to create that value. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a little bit of water right here so that the blooms that form make it look very naturally dark and not something that I forced upon. And why I'm doing this is because the sunlight hits the top and the dark is basically on the base because the mountain blocks the light from reaching it. That's why we need to do this. And this looks very natural, like the softest look. And this has dried on its own while I was painting this. So I'm going to create the darkest value here as well. So no more drying. So there is another mountain layer here, which I will be creating now. You could do like two peaks. You could change the way things look a bit if you have a better idea, if you think something else will elevate your painting. So try that, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make it lighter on one side by dropping my paint. So you see, it's not like a dripping, it's not going to be dripping water. I'm going to squeeze out a bit of water, like squeeze out a bit, and then go in with that so that you don't end up with a blob. Wipe it out on your paper towel and create that softness. And now we have like the whole light and shadow. I'll have to dry this before I go into the darkest, but in case instead of drying it with the heat gun, I'm going to try and do dry brushing here, and then we will work with the water. So for the dry brushing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my flat brush. This is the brush I will be using. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the paint, which is going to be very creamy consistency. I'll show you the value that I have. So your first, this is your value that is the darkest value, and this is the lightest value that you want. So you'll do dry brushing with both values. This is the other value. So closer to the horizon, it'll be lighter, and then further from the horizon, it'll be darker. So I'm going to use my, since it's a dry brush technique, I'm not wetting this brush, I'm just going in with the brush. So let me mix the pigment a little bit more. Make sure it doesn't have too much water in it, and if it does, then you wipe off your brush on a paper towel to take out the excess moisture. Otherwise, you won't get the dry brush effect that you want. I'm not painting each wave. I'm going to do dry brush so that it feels like the water has the slightest movement and is not uh I'm not trying to create a perfectly what do you call realistic painting. Just trying to create a loose landscape. So this is how I use the dry brushing. I'm not sure if you can see the texture come through. In the next layer, I will try. Surely, Lacey, I can do. I did a voting on my YouTube channel, not YouTube, sorry, on my Instagram. Everybody voted for this one. I can definitely do sunset next time. I'd love to do sunset next week, same time. So this is what I was saying. Now this brush is wet. And then if you want to do dry brushing, you cannot go with this kind of consistency. So what you do is take your paper towel or any towel you have, take out the excess moisture and then go in with it. So you still get your dry brush effect with a lighter tonal value. And this is how you build layer with dry brushing without much effort and without painting each layer of your water. I don't stream every day. I stream every Friday. I try to come online at around 9:30 a.m. and I keep it consistent so that everybody knows I'll be around at this time. But every day is not something that I do. It just becomes um, overcommitment for me at this time. So every Friday is when I come online and stream. I love doing streaming when I know what you guys are looking for. um if you let me know in the comments or anywhere, if you want to reach me, I'm on Instagram with the same um ID at Preeti Gupta art.com. I'm so sorry, I'm fumbling. So if you drop me a note as to what you would like to see, I can do that for you. Because anyways, I love coming online. I love coming and painting and knowing what people want to see. This is the only way I get to interact and know people. So yeah, I enjoy live painting. So this is now I'm going to do my darkest layer of the mountain, and this is dried up. If it blooms a little, don't worry, that's okay. Leave a little bit of white gaps because you want to suggest habitation in this area. I'm going to continue this. And then I'm going to lighten this shade because, again, the sunlight, you don't want to miss where the sun is hitting. So I'm going to go lighter here and keep going about it till I reach this area. And then I'm going to paint my final darkest layer on this side. It's probably suggesting trees or things, so I'm not painting like a mountain. I'm just trying to create like a suggestion of trees. And that's it. Now we'll paint the boat. If you're comfortable, go for it directly. If not, you could just draw a guideline like a straight line. I'm not sure if you can see this. I'm going to pull it down. It's like a bracket, and then I'm going to just do this and a triangle and a line. So this is my boat. Let's see how we can best color palette. The darkest indigo. You could go red, it'll look beautiful, but currently I'm just following the reference. This went too dark, so I'm going to lift it. And then I'm going to use my white gouache to create the sails. If you now on the hindsight, I feel I should have said this earlier. If you did have a good masking fluid, you should have probably masked this area where the sails are. But since I don't have one, I'm going to use. So if you're watching it today and going to paint it later, you could use that method. Mask it earlier, but both work fine, in my opinion. And just for a little bit of drama, what I'm going to do is paint a little bit of, shadow around here. And that's it. I think we have our painting. Probably one last thing is the shadow on the sails. That's probably it. What I'd like to do last, I know I'm overdoing this, probably it's an overkill, but I really like to add birds to my painting because it adds so much life to it. Yep. And that's it. So we are in 23-minute mark. So I'm going to take you through how I mix my greens as well. So let's do that. It may not be, it's not something that I'm suggesting is the only way to do it. This is the way I do it. So I want to kind of share that with you all. I'm going to move this aside to dry, and then we'll peel off the tape once we are done with our color mixing. So on my palette, this is my oldest palette. I'll show you what I had and now why I don't use this palette. So I had this Cerulean Blue. This is the blue I had. Then I think this is aqua green. I love this color, but now I can mix this color. And then I had turquoise, and this is, I think, cobalt blue. It's become gray because I think I haven't used it for a while and it was covered in dust probably, or has some paint over it. And this is ultramarine blue. So these are the blues I had, and I used to use this directly for my watercolor seascapes. But I have recently upgraded my pan and I have switched to single pigments. Uh, I'm going to take you through that. Give me 1 second and I'll quickly go and grab that palette. This is my new palette, and now I'll tell you what difference I have. I don't have turquoises anymore. I have a phthalo blue. I have no cerulean blue. I have ultramarine. This is ultramarine. And then I have indigo. I have cobalt blue. I use cobalt blue a lot because it's kind of a neutral blue according to me. It doesn't go um, on the warm or a cool. I mostly use it for the sky. Now, what I do for color mixing is I take phthalo blue, I mix it with yellow. This is Hansa yellow medium, I would believe. And I get this shade for the greenish water. If I want more blue, turquoisey water, I mix more of phthalo, get similar, more of aqua green. And then if I mix more of phthalo, I get turquoisey color. This is phthalo green on the red side, and it gives me so much variety. And if I mix a little bit of green, raw umber, it gives me like a deep shade of green, sea green. So it pretty much solves all my problems with just a few additions and deletions. Like just the phthalo blue gives me so much variety. If I mix my phthalo blue with a Indian yellow, oh sorry, wrong place. It gives me the coastal sand kind of, and keep mixing it with either raw umber or more this. I think raw umber is the one that I keep mixing it more with to get the sand and moody beach side. So yeah, these are the shades I use. And when I use cobalt blue with raw umber, I get the moody grays. So I really feel like these are the few colors which are my go-to colors all the time now, and this is my updated palette. I quite like it. It is quite diverse, and I I feel I also have one shade that I recommend highly everybody have in their palette is a neutral tint to neutralize your paint and don't want your warm and cool tones to be or your composition to be lopsided. You want it to look cohesive, you should have a neutral tint. What I do generally is to paint shadows. I take the color that I was painting the object in, I mix it with neutral tint to get its shadow, so I don't have to worry about the cool tones and the warm tones. It really helps me focus on the composition and the subject and get the layers right, then worry about the cool and warm tones. So, yeah, these are a few changes that I've done in my palette, and I've gotten rid of these two. And I think it works pretty well for me at the moment for the seascapes that I'm doing. So, if you do try any of these, you know, mixes, do let me know. It was fun hanging out with everybody. And now let's just go back to our painting, peel off the tape. So before you peel off the tape, again, another tip, warm it up. So when you warm it up, it takes out the adhesive or probably just melts it down. So there are no tears or rips on your paper. I have had those many a times. Um, and this trick has always worked for me. So try this and save your paper, because when it is heartbreaking to see that when you kind of have finished the painting, there is a paper rip and it's going to go to trash or not going to be as perfect as you planned it to be. So, yeah, this is it for today. Thank you for hanging out with me. Let me know what you want to see next time. Casey suggested we do a sunset. I'm going to definitely do that. And these paints are from different brands. I think the cobalt blue hue is from Holbein. The ultramarine is Daniel Smith. Cobalt blue hue, I said. What else? I'm going to bring back my pigments. So, yeah, this is an Indian color. Phthalo blue is from uh, Aquatone Artist Materials. Indigo is from Rosa Paints. I like it for its dispersion, but Indigo from uh, Mission Gold is beautiful too. So yeah, those are the pigments, and others are all from Daniel Smith. Bye. See you next week. Thank you. If you have any other questions, please do drop in the comment. And I really would like to know your thoughts. And see you next week.